So just to see who is in the room here, by show of hands, who is in one? And for someone who's not yet a manager, you count as one. Anyone not a manager yet or just managing one team? Oh, everybody's managed people before. Wow, how exciting. Okay, manager of managers. Manager of managers. Yeah, everybody else here is a functional head, is it? I don't believe you. Okay. Next time I will do an anonymous poll. I usually get better answers that way. The next thing I was going to ask you, I hope you guys answered this question, is during your management journey, assuming you're all functional heads, how useful was the training you received? Number one, was it sufficient and useful? No hands going up. Was it some but not enough? There you go, a couple hands. Was it little or none? You picked everything up on the job. There's a lot of people in the room. Yeah. So in this study, 82% of managers in the UK reported that they got no training upon their promotion to manager position. This is the CMI, the Better Management Report in the UK, but the numbers are comparable around the world. So what I call the accidental manager is a structural problem. So the management literature, and we were also talking about this, really talks more about the journey in seniority that I just took you all through. The people, the delegation, the motivation, and so on, and the influence. There's another gap. The job did not just get senior, the job got wider. Now, when I was running this through AI, they suggested that I call this whole talk the expanding manager, but I decided, better not. So when I was doing the research for this master's and also reflecting over my own management journey, I realized by the last job that I was in that I was reasonably fluent in all of these. And by fluent, I don't mean being an expert, but I know enough to be dangerous. Well, I know enough to be able to question experts. I know enough to be accountable for people who are doing these kinds of jobs under me. And I had to pick this up along the way. Now, I'm now going to go deep on 4 of these to show and walk everybody through how these things have changed and accelerated in change over the last 20 plus years. And by the end of this, you'll see how much a technology manager needs to sort of really absorb it quickly. So let's look at people and talent. So when I first started working, we tended to work in silos and we tended to work much more locally. Even if you worked in an MNC, you worked in letter speed. My dad worked for an MNC. And so you tended to be managing people who did the same kinds of things that you did. And the management training program very often involved putting you for a time in a bunch of different areas so that you can experience and become an expert in each of those areas for multiple months. Like when I was little, my dad went through this kind of management training program and then got sent to England, to London Business School to manage these things. And that is just a rate of change that doesn't happen anymore. So we started with the internet. The rate of change of initiatives became a lot faster. We started doing things in an agile manner, and we started experimenting with cross-functional squads and cross-company tribes. At Amazon, I was part of the Jeff Bezos' 2 pizza team experiment. He basically said the whole company, all the technology teams, you're all going to split up into 2 pizza teams. Cross-functional. If you're still hungry after 2 pizzas, you got too many people in the room. And he didn't do, pilot this, one team, just one department. He was like, 1, 2, 3, go, whole company went. And then if you really cannot tahan, then you have permission to come back and not be a cross-functional squad. That was really interesting change in how we operated as managers. I was a group manager by that time. So then the next thing that we saw happening was globalization really took off. Outsourcing, offshoring really took off. And now you're managing across cultures, across time zones, employment models, contractors, vendors, and how do you integrate all of these into one functioning operation? I remember at Amazon, I was the product manager for customer reviews. I remember these are people in customer service who had to decide whether, somebody reported this is not a great customer review. Is that correct or is that not? So we had some really edgy, punky people in Seattle, which we then outsourced to very nice people in Idaho who were very square and not very ironic or edgy. And so my customer review customers were very annoyed, saying, this is ironic. It's ironic. I'm not meaning to be mean or anything, right? So I trained them. I had to train them in the culture. And then we moved the team to New Delhi. Whole different set of cultural changes that we had to manage. And now we do it so often, we almost do it. We don't realize how much skill is behind this management, right? So the next thing that happened is COVID. We went remote and not everybody is back to full in person. And what we had to learn very quickly, the last company that I was in, I started the job in COVID, full lockdown in Singapore, and most of my team was in India. So I couldn't even see them for a couple of years. So how do you handle the tools? How do you handle the knowledge management, the accountability? And then I had people working for me who out of school, who had never been in an office before. So how do you teach them these basic kind of office culture and corporate culture, right? And now you've got the AI augmented team. So which parts of the work does AI take on? How do you assess contribution? Who goes? Right? So let me move on to product thinking. So in the product world, when I started, I was a program manager. Success meant I take requirements from someone else. Then I deliver this on time and in budget with very few bugs, right? This has really changed a lot in Agile. You have had to have a complete different mindset. Most of you here have had some experience with Agile and Scrum. You have to learn different rituals. You set different expectations. And it's not just your own team that operates in an Agile way. You have to train and work with sales is expecting, a monumental waterfall. This is what we're launching so I can sell it at this particular point in time, right? So we've had to figure that out, and people are still running hybrid and not pure Agile. So then with product thinking, now I'm responsible for figuring out what's the real problem that we're solving. And I'm also responsible for measuring, did we really solve the original problem that we set out to solve? And then also, I can't just leave it at launch. I'm responsible for this thing for the entire product life cycle. Whereas last time I used to launch a project, I'm very happy and move on to something else. With UX and and a lot of data coming in, we also sort of embedded that into the whole product strategy and used the processes, the user discovery processes of the UX field and all the data that comes along to help us to decide what to build next, what to change. And now, of course, again, we have AI products and enhancements, AI-assisted development, and then being accountable for what AI systems do and get wrong. Now let's look at commercial and vendor parts. When I was first starting, I used to just, say, I need this tool, this is what I need. I went to my finance department and my procurement department, and they took care of it. They dealt with the contracts and everything. I just need to get permission for the budget. At Amazon, we created our own recruiting tool. We created our own A/B testing systems. So a lot of things were also built in-house, and whatever vendor relationships we had tended to have much longer cycles. Now, we then move to the outsourcing wave again, and now I have to source and manage vendors in different countries. I need to deal with SLAs, governance, and all kinds of communication issues that I never had to before. And then in the age of software as a service, now I don't have to build my own recruiting tool. I don't have to build my own A/B testing thing. I can just go and buy and plug it into my office processes and into my systems. As a manager, now I need to figure out, do I really need this? What level of sophistication do I need? How do I balance who needs what more? And if I indeed get something on board, how do I make sure that my team is really using it to the max? So many places I've gone in and they're using like 0.1% of what things like Salesforce can actually do for them. And then now we are in the cloud and financial operations space. Last time when I wanted to launch a product, I used to say, I need the budget, I need the data guys to go and buy me 3 of these kinds of boxes, and this will last me for 2 years. Now I can just plug in and cloud will scale infinitely, and that allows you to dangerously use as much as you can consume. So architectural decisions are now a variable operational cost that sort of belong in me as a manager's portfolio to worry about, right? And now we've got AI tooling and spend. It's a new category. Which tool should we use? Changing all the time. Vendors are coming up and vendors will leave as well. And the data implications of every tool have significance that you probably don't understand the full extent of. Let's look at the data space. We started with relational databases. My husband, he used to work at an insurance company, and one of his job as a dedicated amount of time, he would spend a bunch of time collating, putting together, cleaning the data for the quarterly management report. Huge amount of time, not a huge amount of data available. Over time also, the speed at which we get data and the volume of data that we get also increases. So the business intelligence layer comes along, and now as I'm able to get some information, we now have data warehouses, we have OLAP cubes. So within the little bit of information I have, I can now slice and dice and make my own reports. Then we get to the era of big data with, data lakes and Hadoop and things like that. I get even more insights and so on. But again, just getting the data and manipulating the data requires specialist data engineers and so on, and takes a while. And with the modern data stack and with AI coming along, things are getting faster and faster. But now with all of that, for example, in my last company, I made a bunch of data available to my teams, to my marketing manager and my product manager to use. And they both came up with a customer acquisition, retention, and churn report, and the numbers were completely different. So, are they using different numbers? Which numbers are they using? How are they counting things? The definition of what data is and having a common playbook becomes really important. And of course, in the world of AI, it is garbage in, garbage out, right? You are now responsible for making sure that the data that goes into your AI models are relevant and also clean and also ethically sourced. So that's just 4 of those boundary shifts with UX and customer orientation. We're getting ever more listening to the customer voice. We're making sure that we embed user experience research at every stage of the product lifecycle. With agile and change, continuous delivery makes change constant. That's very uncomfortable to a lot of people. And like I said, if you run hybrid, you're sort of juggling 2 slightly orthogonal features, which are very difficult to reconcile. In technology operations, things used to be deployed manually and somewhat infrequently. At Amazon, we deployed once a week, right? It was a monolithic code base. And now it's continuous, it's automated. Security has to be embedded and resilience has to be architected in. So there are all these things that we never used to think about very much that we now absolutely have to. And then, of course, there's AI and governance. I was just talking about cybersecurity, copyright, privacy implications. How do you govern Gen AI and know what your organizational is accountable for when things go wrong, right? And then with sustainability, now architecture decisions also affect your carbon footprint. Again, before I came to NUS ISS, I was beginning to have to instrument all my reports to be able to report up for ESG reports and accountability. So these are the expanding manager's responsibilities. So the job grew and keeps growing. How can we help managers grow as fast? So we talked to people, students to alumni at NUS ISS, and they all asked for classes, for a structured way to learn in these specific domains. So we will be rolling out the masters. This is my sales pitch hat, where we will be rolling out classes across all of these different domains. Where you need it, you can take a single class. You can take a couple of classes that stack up to a graduate cert. 4 of those grad certs plus capstone will stack you up to a full master's of science in enterprise digital technology management. And as part of that, we will also be doing more short talks like this in the technology management space. This is bringing NUS ISS from the kind of technology education. We do have MDL for very senior managers, but we're sort of bringing up the classes, the education of all of our different departments up one level up the managerial ladder. And with that, I'd like to invite 2 people on the stage that I've worked with for the past 8 years. Whoops, move backwards. Hello. Who can help us kind of take a look at what management looks like given their very varied experiences. Chak has experience in investing. He's built and sold technology companies, and he's been on a number of boards, standard bodies, Smart Nation, as well as educational boards. And Pauline has experienced government technology at scale, large enterprise operations and acquisitions and so on. And she used to be our AI chief. So welcome, Pauline and Chak. That too. Oh wait, I'll keep this.
They have agreed that I should be the thorn right in the middle.
Yeah. So firstly, I'd like to ask each of you to introduce yourselves and also to give your reflections on what resonates with you about what I have just been talking about.
Okay. All right, I'll go first. I've been in the industry for probably close to 4 decades. Started in the mid-80s with a company called Arthur Andersen, and they became Accenture, and Andersen Consulting, and they became Accenture not many years ago. So I've been with them for almost 10 years. One day I woke up and decided I didn't want to be a partner, so I left them without a job, and then started my own business and built it from 300 people and sold the company. So since then, which is mid-noughties, I've been I partner with maybe 5 of my old friends from the IT industry who are more or less done with a corporate career, and we actually started to invest in startups, early stage, Series A type. And what we do is that we actually help the startup, maybe raise 1-2 rounds of funds, and then we'll pass on to the next round, and we start again with the younger startups. So that what's been helping. So in the past, I've also been helping Nadine's product strategic product management course, right? To help the students, actually give them a perspective of the industry. So what do I see as a perspective? When I started there are three major changes since I started my career, right? In the IT industry. The first wave was actually moving to PC, right? Which is the client server era, right? The second wave was from LAN and WAN into internet, right? And today we have the AI wave, right? Fundamentally, I think the first two waves were mainly switching of tools, right? You have your mainframe and your PC and your client server. You have your different networks, and now you're on the internet. But really in AI, the switch is actually mechanizing the task rather than changing of tools. So therefore, in this era, I think what we have done in the past, right, really warrant a new way of thinking and a new way of education. And when I think Nadine approached me with a class, I think we supported it very, very much because really it's a rethinking of how we could equip our managers for the next era. And that's really what I take away. I mean, Nadine actually very nicely gone through with you all the different topics in the different eras. If you really notice, right, towards the last era, the change is really being task oriented rather than a tool oriented. Right. Maybe I'll let Pauline share.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Pauline. Okay, how long have I been in the industry? He already gave the cat away. We were classmates when we were doing A levels. So however old he is, I'm the same. So yeah, 39 years in the industry. So
But I thought you only 39 years old.
I'm 25. How can you add 14 years? But anyway, okay. So I started with the government service as a programmer. So that's where we all started years back, where if you study computer science, naturally you go into either programming or you go into sales. The options are not as many and as exciting as what you have today. And so I was there for more than 2 decades. Then I moved out to the private sector. I went into shipping and logistics. So I've always, so all the way when I was government, I started with applications. I think most of you understand. So you do application, development, programming, support, and what have you. Then along the way, I was asked to move to, instead of looking at application, I was asked to go and manage and build infrastructure, which is like, okay. And I was thinking, I happen to be in those government schema where I don't really have a lot of choice as to what I want to work on, and neither can I resign. So anyway, so I went into infrastructure. And along the way, I was thrown to do government-wide and national projects. So one of the projects that many of you wouldn't like, if you know I'm in it, you probably throw stones at me, is something called the electronic road pricing system. So a lot of people ask me, why didn't you program your name in so that when you drive under it, you don't have to pay? It's a good thing I didn't, because then I would be in prison right now. The other national projects like the cash card that you hold in your wallet. So those are the kind of projects that I do. Then I moved out to shipping and to logistics. And that was a global company that's no longer around, called Neptune Orient Lines, NOL. So that's a global company. And so then you find, again, I'll share with you what my takeaway is. And that's also in IT. So it's a global IT role. Then the opportunity came for me to go into a totally different role as the CTO. So from CIO, when the career is over, I went to become Chief Technology Officer. And that's very different, because then I went into sets and aviation and ground handling and food protection. So that's where you find that I work on factory automation. I work on autonomous vehicles. I work on how to do ground handling. and how to innovate in aviation space. So it's a totally different area, but it's actually very exciting. So maybe just to give you a flavor, some of you may not know that behind the scenes, when you actually walk into Changi Airport, those people sitting at the counter, whether it's Singapore Airlines, whatever, they may wear the Singapore Airlines uniform. But now you see more and more of them wearing the SATS uniform. These are actually SATS staff, not the airline staff, These are SATS people. So these are the people who will check you in, and we have to cross-train people on the platforms of different airlines. Yep. So that's how it works. And the other thing that you may not be aware of is when you get on the plane, the food that you eat on the plane is cooked by SATS. Same as the men, your RB food also cooked by SATS. So SATS alone cooks 220 million meals a year. Meals. So that's so can you just imagine the amount of automation and the amount of food that actually needs to be cooked. So you can't possibly have a human cooking. So you just imagine the just cooking rice alone. It's a huge task. So how do we even ensure that the rice is and the food is fresh? So the other one, before I go into the one that I think everybody should know, based on food technology, based on all the scientists, food above 15 degrees, 15, and food below 75 degrees Celsius is when pathogen growth is exponential. Anything below 15, anything above 75, there is still pathogen growth, but it is a lot less. So what your mother and your grandmother have been teaching you, after you cook the food, don't put in the fridge. The fridge will spoil. Hey, you and I, Becky, right? You think the fridge will spoil? No, the fridge is not going to spoil. But your food will spoil. If you leave on the table to cool, you are breeding pathogen. So it's okay to put into your fridge. Cool it down. Because whatever food we cook at the airport for your consumption on the plane, the minute it is cooked, we put into a blast chiller to chill it down to 5 degrees within 15 minutes. So that when you eat on the plane, there's still sufficient toilet for you. Okay. Anyway, so if you ask me what's my take on this, I think I would like to go down the management path. So along the way, whether it's in government, whether in the private sector, as you move along your career path, most of us will go into the management line. Even if you are a technologist, you will still have to manage your engineers. You still have to manage your vendors. You still have to manage your suppliers. But that journey alone is where I find that you learn nothing like that in school, because suddenly you are no longer when you manage a project, you have control. When you manage a project, you have direct influence. But the minute you move up the management role, when you manage managers, when you are put in charge of departments, when you put in charge of divisions or what have you, or countries, your role becomes very different. So who's going to teach you the difference? You suddenly become what? You suddenly become no longer, you still need your technology, but suddenly you have to be what? Conversant, or you have to understand finance, your P&L. You have to understand operations. You have to understand HR. You have to understand organization change. Suddenly you become a jack of all trades, an all-rounder. So where do you learn all these skills from? You can't possibly go and get a degree in everything. So all this comes on the job. And when Nadine comes out, all this will be very helpful because it gives you a very different perspective and some foundation when you are suddenly put into a space like that. It's very different. So when you look at an organize, when you run the division, or when you're a functional manager, or even a manager, you are no longer looking at delivering a project. You are what? The success is whether your organization succeed The success is whether your system, your team succeeds. It's whether or not your balance sheet looks good. You no longer look at whether I implement the best system, no, because the best system may not be what your organization needs. Suddenly you're thrown into a position to trade off. You need to trade off what is a good system versus what your business needs. If your business needs a system to run right now for whatever business challenge they have, do you give them the best system that you can only deliver 6 months later? Or you need to come up with a system that you can give to them so that the business can survive. So there's a lot of trade-off. Is this the most secure system? Or this is good enough to go right now? So what's the residual risk? Suddenly you find that your whole world is different. You're no longer building the best system. So you need to suddenly understand business, operations, finance. And when you manage people, I think in today's world, it's a lot more complicated than where I was. When I was running IT, when I was doing technology, most of my users don't know IT lah. So it's okay. Whatever you tell them, you're still quite smart lah. Now everybody in the university is trained in IT. In primary school, in secondary school, some of our children are smarter than we are. So are you the IT guru? No, not anymore, So your job is a lot tougher. So how do you have enough understanding for you to still be able to motivate, for you to still be able to convince your business that, hey, this is the best way to go, when some of our business users, they may have a master's in technology. It so happen that they decide to be in the line of business. So how do you do it? So the world has changed. So your job, unfortunately, is a lot tougher than when we went to Suki.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm going to go back to the whole business of those kids, right? And we have been adjuncts, and then I've taken over teaching DPS for 7 years. So we've seen students change over the course of that period. Their readiness and certain skill sets have changed over time. How do you feel like overall, and for CHEK, you see a larger range of educational bodies? How ready are our students in terms of kind of management readiness with all of those different skills? And how has our education system changed? And what do you think needs to change for us to really meet the needs of the modern age?
Actually, I think our education system is quite technically aligned. Meaning that if you want someone that is good in SAP and there's a SAP requirement, the schools will teach it. Maybe not university, but certainly the polys and the ITEs, right? If you want someone to teach, you want someone with Python, people will teach it. But actually, what we are talking about is actually beyond Python, right? People will say that, if you are moving to management, you look at profit and loss. You need to look at profitability and so on. Actually, today, that is also not enough, right? You need to understand beyond the profit. You need to understand how to make the policies, right? How does the framework help in solving the problem, whatever the problem is, whether it's a business problem, it's a government problem, it's a tech problem, whatever problem, right? So the question is, how do we actually have a framework to solve those problems? And I think there is a skill which is not being taught readily in our schools, if you ask me, right? Today, in my position, right, whether on the board or as an investor, right, I listen to the leaders, right, who are good in making policies. Now, the really good ones, right, go down to the ground and check if the policy is executed correctly, right? Now, once there are two roles of it, right? One, as a leader, you need to lead, or you need to manage your next generation to execute the policies, right? And then you need to go down and verify them, right? The question is that, are these skills being taught in our schools today? Are these skills being taught just in time learning when you go to work? I don't think they are. Hopefully you pick it up along the way And hopefully you have leaders up there to show you the way. But today, especially in IT, we are moving beyond the speed of light, right? Everybody is hire and fire, right? You come in, you do your job, you go away, and then, you look up, your boss gone already, right? And after you look down, hey, I'm also going, right? So the question is that where do we learn these skills? In the past, we are going only at the speed of light. So we still got time to look around. But today, it is so fast. So some of these skills are really missing, if you ask me. Right? And I don't know if you agree with me, Pauline, right? From that perspective.
I totally agree. I think what we are never taught in school is empathy and the ability to really connect with people. Very often, I find that in an organization, whatever project, program you want to push is directly proportional to how good your relationship, how good your rapport is with the line of business. If you are able to win the business with you, if you're able to communicate, you're able to explain what you're trying to do, and there's buy-in, your project move very fast. But if they don't understand you, you have no rapport, then you find that the time taken just for you to explain to them why you want to do it, just to answer all their doubts and all their worries, which everybody will have, is what will really wear you down. I mean, one of the stories I've always been told is from the start to the finish line. If let's say you drive a bus and you're the bus driver on a project, the success of your project is not that your bus goes from start to destination. It's whether when your bus finally reach destination, is your bus full of people clapping to say, yes, we have arrived? Or are you still the only one on the bus and along the way, everybody jumped the bus? Then, although you may have reached destination, it's no way it's not a success. You're the only one.
Yeah, I think another thing I want to add, right, is that, give you a story, right? I was involved with the Singapore Computer Society, and with that, I have the privilege of actually working with IMDA, which is the manpower division, to look at preparing the next generation of IT professionals, right? And I remember at the time, quite a number of years ago, right? We said, what is the most required skills that we have in technology? And I think about 10 years ago, it was cybersecurity, right? Because you're all going online and there was really, So we went to schools and asked the schools, right? Okay, we need skills in cybersecurity, right? One university came back, and I shall not name the university, and say, guys, we got a great idea. Now we have this master's program which we curated from a whole entire school, and in 7 years' time, you can get a master's in cybersecurity. Then all of us are looking at that person and say, we needed the guy yesterday, right? So what I'm trying to say is that, in those days, they don't have, other than ISS, actually, I think ISS is ahead of its time. We have this thing called stackable courses, right? Which means that if you need a certain skills right now, like for example, AI governance, right? Go and take that module first, right? And within a certain time, you are and have the aptitude for AI governance, right? Then, if you want to continue to work, you continue to work because it's up to 7 years, right? Then you can choose your other modules, and then you finally matriculate and do your project. Then you get your master's, right? And I think this is actually just in time kind of education that we require, because these kind of things the company usually don't teach you. And I hope some of you guys who are from the HR, right, be really aware of this, because these skills is very difficult to impart while you're in the company. It's easier if they take a course outside, and especially if it's stackable, right? Within a short time, they have some skills that come back and immediately can be used by the company, right? And I think the style of that education is going to be very important going into the future, right? You do things in chunks, right? You don't do a degree or a 2-year fixed time, because by the time you finish, right? Yeah, the topics are gone, Whatever you've learned, you'd relearn, right? So that's something which I think the stackables are really very, in my opinion, way of its time. Now, a lot of schools today have stackables, right? But I think, if I'm not mistaken, it at that time, even 10, 15 years ago, when we were looking at this, ISS was already doing somewhat of a stackable program out there.
Totally agree. Because after you learn, you practice. That's how you learn. It's not like so discrete. I finish my course, then I practice. Actually, the stackable allows you to learn and practice, learn and practice. I think that's where the value is. The practice is where you actually learn. The rest is actually knowledge.
Cool. Besides my blatant sales pitch, for people to come and take these courses, what else do you recommend that prospective managers or managers wanting to grow, how do they keep up with all of these things? What mindsets do they need to have? Any particular resources do you think are of great use?
I think, today, technical stuff, you can literally learn very quickly, right? I think management stuff is going to be a little bit harder, right? So the question I have is really, we are young in a course where we not only teach the process side of things. That means you want to do something, this is a process to get it done, right? We also look at what are the other factors, right, that will add or do this, right, which is out. We are throwing in curveballs somewhere else, right, to give you the idea that, so for example, in the course that we are young together, right, it's a digital product strategy, and there's a process on how to develop a digital product, right? But more often than not, the students actually, the participants really understand and absorb the process of doing things, right? But the point sometimes is that they don't look at it from the other guy's standpoint. I'm selling a product to the other guy. What does the other guy want, right? So we ask those tough questions, right? You have a product that actually serves the parents, right? Because it is efficient for you to do so. But the question is is that what the parent wants? Is that what the kids wants? Is that what the other stakeholders want? Because it's beyond just one stakeholder, which is you who developed the product, right? So I think we add those kind of, I think the college, the school add those kind of value to you when which you can't really take, right? The fact is that, Nadine has to chase the two of us to come in and have a chat with you guys, shows her dedication to make sure that the industry view is being expressed out from here, rather than just the academic view. Because very easily she could have gotten all the teachers up here to tell you what the course is all about, right? Which will also tell you the skills that you require. I think what both Pauline and I add is really we are not true lecturers in a sense, right? We actually contribute from the industry standpoint.
I just want to add the softer aspects to it. I think when you go into management, your head change. Your head is no longer whether you deliver, whether your team delivers. You actually have to look at things from the business or the organization perspective. So sometimes when your project, if your project gets killed, and it's better for the organization, what do you do? So your head now is very different. No? And therefore, so the other thing that I learned, and actually when I was younger, I was fortunate to have this a very interesting course called Boundary Management. It was done by a 73-year-old Egyptian professor. And it was one of those Temasek courses where they flew the guy in. So in the course of, called Boundary Management, which actually, interestingly, I've never seen it being taught elsewhere, is the minute you go into management, you are suddenly thrown into a space where there are a lot of boundaries, different departments, different divisions, different functions that you now need to navigate. So these are the boundaries where suddenly in the past, when you just look at your project you deliver, the boundaries are very clear. This is my space. This is what I deliver. But the minute you're a manager of managers or your function or whatever division, you are suddenly one boundary in many, and you don't operate on your own anymore. So then you now have to work with multiple products, multiple delivery teams, finance. Suddenly you have your business. So how to navigate this boundary will be another very interesting topic that you want to consider. Yeah.
Cool. In the interest of time, I'd like to see if anybody in the audience has any questions for the panel. Because I have more questions if you don't.
Don't be shy.
May not have the answer, but you can try.
No questions.
Maybe about the thing you asked.
Yep.
You've mentioned how soft skills are very important now, especially when you reach that management stage. But what's happening right now in the industry with all the layoffs, the tech layoffs, and everything else? For instance, I'm coming from the insights and analytics space, and a lot of people like me have been replaced, or rather, because it's always been a support function, it's been removed because now AI has come in. So, what advice would you give to someone like me who has been retrenched, who already had the technical skills? I was managing my own department. What do I do now?
Yep, that's a good, interesting question because you probably are not the only one, right? And you will not. There'll be more others coming along the way, given the AI. Soft skill is always a very important part of our work, but beyond soft skills, you need to understand, right? Like Pauline mentioned, right? You, as a manager, right? Eventually, you will probably have to let go people, right? Whether you like it or not, right? The question is then, do you have the capacity to actually understand the framework or the business around what you guys are doing, right? So more importantly, I think in your position, I will look beyond just the technical skill of data analytics, because data analytics eventually it's mathematics, right? And the question is really, what does the analytics tell you, right? You have to look at from that perspective. And the soft skill is important because you need to articulate that, right? Because whatever analytics you have are just numbers. The question would be then, why are these analytics right? What are the new analytics you require for you to move the business to the next level? So what I'm saying is that, if for a programmer, talking Python is not good enough, right? For analytics, talking your stats is not good enough. You need to understand really where and why those tools are being used to drive the business to whichever direction they want to go. Now, it is easier said than done in the sense that you guys are not given that direction today, right? You're just given a job to do, right? You just fulfill the job, and one day the guy say, "No, thank you. Somebody else can do your job," right? The question is that you have to prepare yourself that today is always your last day of work, right? So where are you going tomorrow? Okay, and hopefully, right? You will be able to think through the process of management, the process of the things we mentioned about, let's say if it's AI governance or any other area, to go beyond what is the objective of those areas. Then it is beyond your job, right? While doing your job, right? So I think that's where, I think is critical. Okay.
I totally agree. I think technical skills, which is why you find that a lot of times we have to go through technical upgrading, because technical skills keep changing, and it's changing a lot faster than you think. So the question is you definitely can go and learn another technical skill. But technical skill is a foundation. No? So when you go
It's
into
a
a
tool,
job,
yeah.
it is the basic that's required of you. The ability to apply this foundation, the ability to connect the soft skill on top is what is very transferable, whichever technical skill or job you're in. And how effective you are in that soft skill actually will be able to allow you to best deliver whatever technical expertise you have. I mean, look at cybersecurity. You can be a cybersecurity expert, no? But if you don't have the skill to explain the risk, to explain the value you bring to the line of business for whatever cybersecurity thing that you do, which is most of the time very complicated, you're not going to be very successful, no matter how good your cybersecurity knowledge is. So that soft skill is something that you must definitely build a bit over the years. Technical foundation allows the soft skill is what allows your technical foundation to be able to be delivered effectively and to really bring value. And the soft skill is very hard to build.
So how to get the soft skills?
You learn on the job, you learn by observing, and you learn by relearning. Unfortunately, I don't have an answer. No, you learn by making mistakes. You learn by doing what is right. So I always tell my son, when you go in, whatever you do, if you don't like something, then you learn not to do it. If you like something that your boss does, then you learn how to do it. There's always something.
So I always have this thought, right? That yes, while soft skills is something that you have to try and learn in a safe environment, right? And I think going back to school is a good safe environment, right? I think through some of the courses, some of the, Pauline always disturb me, right? Because she thinks sometimes I'm very tough on those guys, right? And, at one point, I think someone almost cried. But I don't think I was as tough as if his manager is going to be there, right? And I always say that in those environments, it's a safe environment. So we are not criticizing you for being you. We are criticizing you, we are criticizing the solution that is being presented, right? And if you are at your actual workplace, right, that will also happen. Sometimes it's even tougher, right? But if you have a safe environment, right, like a class, like a school, like your friends, right, and that's how you can start to extend and pick up your soft skills. Yeah.
In the office,
It's very tough.
it's tough, but that's the best learning experience.
Yeah.
You fall, you just move on and move on lah.
Thick skin a bit.
Thick skin lah. We all have gone through that. Like we are still here. We didn't die in the process.
Yet.
I always say there are so many meetings I walk into. After when I come out, when I drink water, I'm a water fountain. Because people get shot. I think everybody will tell us, but that's how you learn. You come on. You mean now you can get scolded before, man? You go in, I tell you, you get so many questions. You come out, you feel so small, but the next time you're smarter.
Only our generation. Nowadays, you're very politically correct.
They all resign, but last time we don't have the luxury of resign. That's how you learn. The next time you go in, you're smarter. Next time you go in, you're smarter. And your skin grows thicker.
Any other questions? Go for it. Go for it.
There was a recent Straits Times co-op, that said that the fresh grad job is now a third-year job, right? So employers these days, they expect fresh graduates to come in pre-trained already. And what that has kind of like bred is this thing called a internship arms race, where the more internships you have under your belt, the more you have a leg up on the rest. My question is around trying to get a leg up in the industry or trying to leg up in the in employability, as a fresh grad or even as a mid-career person, how do I stand out in the marketplace? So, for example, if I were interviewing for a job, how do I need to put forth my capabilities that allow me to stand out? Because the job market is getting smaller, actually. So the competition is getting fiercer, right? How do I stand out? I know you guys spoke about soft skills, communication, being politically savvy and all that. Any career advice, into how to stand out more, be it as a fresh person or as an experienced worker? How do you stand out more and set yourself apart from the
I
competition?
share with you how I teach my son to ace all his interviews. My son, I've got two sons, okay? And so when my older son, he's now 29, when he graduated, and he's 28. When he graduated, he got no job, right? I mean, no experience. So how do you make yourself? How do you sell yourself? So, but then when he was younger, I said, you go and find some time work to do. Then he's like, then he said, how does that help? So anyway, he's quite adventurous. So he went one day when he was, I think 16 going on 17. So one day we're having dinner at a restaurant. And I said, you've got 6 months to do nothing. Couldn't find a job. So he walked to the counter. He told the manager, I'm looking for a job. Do you want to hire me? I'm prepared to be a waiter. I can wash dishes. And the guy hired him, because he walked in and he asked. Okay. Then subsequently, when he studied in Australia, he went and got himself hired to pick berries. Okay. Then berry picking is only a season. Then he went to become a car washer. And along the way, he got more bold. Then he went to, this is literally a butcher to hire him in his butcher shop, which he quit he actually quitted in 3 days because he said, I'm of no use to the guy. Shop washer, I don't know how to. But he got himself hired. Then when he graduated, he looked for a job. He said, so when you ask me to do all these things, how are these useful? I said, if I'm your employer, if you can sell to me that you're prepared to do a lot of things, you're adventurous, you are prepared to try, you're prepared to innovate, you will stand out against one who has a much better score than you. So the question is, how do you now go into an interview and sell all this up and make yourself look like you're prepared to try, you're very hardworking, you're very innovative, you're very creative. So it's a matter, so whatever you do is how you packaged it, And it's not fake, it's you. So if you are somebody who's very adventurous, then you better apply for a job that requires somebody to be a risk taker. Don't go become auditor. But if you want to become auditor, then you got to also see how to build your portfolio to go down that path and then go in and explain how you are best suited for the role in what you do and not what you study. I got A's, I got A in this, I got A. Come on, those are written there. The fellow see you have all the A. That's why you're called for an interview. But during the interview, I want to see how are you going to work? What's your working style? What's your working attitude? And what's your mannerism? Are you hardworking? How do you show that you're hardworking? Are you innovative? Are you creative? So that's the difference, And obviously, you need to be prepared and need to learn how to talk. So stand in front of the mirror and talk to the mirror confidently. And don't go inside when the fellow asks you a question, then you start to think a bit too late. I mean, so my son practiced that. So maybe before his interview, I call him and then I ask him, so why do you think I should give you the job? Then he mommy, this type of question. I said, yeah, if you can answer my question, any question that come along will be around this type, It's a slight variation, right? Oh, tell me more about yourself. It's as good as tell me why should I give you the job. Which most interviewer, nicer one will say, tell me more about yourself. But Mr. Chang will say, why should I hire you? Sorry, you're going to say something.
what happens before, because now it's happening. Everyone's using AI, so they appear to be the perfect candidate. Now there are thousands of applications going for one job posting. So how do you stand out amongst those? How does your application stand out? Because people are not even making to the hiring stage yet because they're not even getting through the ATS. So, but how do you stand out?
I think what you need to do is that your letter that you that you write to the company has to stand out, right? It cannot be one letter to different companies. Sorry?
Yeah.
It's
AI
tailored to
Depending on the
no, no,
job
no.
you're
It's
applying for.
tailored to the job that you want, not to the company, to the job. Because when I'm hiring for a job, right, I'm looking for someone for the job, not for the company, right? So that's step one, right? Then step two is the company, right? What do you know about the company, right? So instead of saying, please hire me because I have these skills, right? You might want to say that, I understand your new direction for this company is that way. This is where I could contribute
Value I bring.
for this job. You have to do your homework. You can't be writing standard letters to everybody, right? And every single job, every single company has to be different. So you're applying for 2 jobs in the same company, that letter has to be different, right? It cannot be one letter, 2 jobs same.
Every job, and you're still not getting noticed then?
Then I think your interviewing tactics has to change. That means you need to
Application. She's not even getting an interview.
She's not even
getting an interview.
not getting the interview.
Yeah. Then I think the easiest one is networking, right? You need to be able to figure out, usually the networking will give you the extra juice for you to write into your letter why you should be hired, right?
Either that or you're applying for jobs that are not suitable.
But for you, yeah.
Oh no, there are thousands of people like me who are unemployed.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
actually competing with people who are a lot senior than me. So that people with 20 years of experience in the same field as me that are applying for the same middle management job as I am.
Yeah.
So
So sometimes, it's who you know,
yeah.
right? So you can understand better what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid that there are thousands of people who are more experienced than you or more senior than you, applying, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes that job is not for them, right? Because they could be overqualified or underqualified. Either way, right? So the question is that to make yourself stand out, you really need to understand where you're going, who is hiring, why are they hiring. And the better part, if you ask me, is to network,
Okay.
right? If someone recommends you, if you already know the job, it's a lot easier for you than someone that you're writing cold to all the different jobs that's out there. So don't get disheartened, right?
No, but your resume is key. Your first of all, your resume has to be short.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it must clearly tell me why you fit the job.
Yeah.
So it cannot just list out all
Yeah.
your grades and
Chronologically, this is
no.
what I've done.
You can have your chronology behind, but your first page, maximum 2, but preferably keep it to 1,
Page.
is what highlight clearly based on the job they're asking for, why you are a good
Why me?
fit.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's why you're a good fit.
I've been retrenched multiple times. This is the nature of the job. But over the course of my entire career, I've only ever cold applied to a company. And that was when I was moving from one country to another and I didn't know anybody in that country. So I did not like networking. I was a real introvert. But it's really through networking that I got my foot in the door, and not especially now in the day of AI, where as a manager, I used to be flooded with resumes as well.
You know why networking is important? Very often now, when at least when I hire people, sometimes you have only a few positions, and then you have so many resumes. If let's say this person, you know somebody who I know, and this person I know say, hey, this candidate, I've worked with her before, she's very good. I'll likely see you, Then it's for you to perform then at the interview. but you at least get your way through the door. But you still have to make sure at the interview you really can perform. And even if you walk through the door, networking is also important, because when I do reference check, if you are able to connect with somebody who I know and this person can vouch for you, you win. So networking, unfortunately, whether you like. So networking doesn't mean I go social, no. It means that let yourself be seen and known. Yeah.
LinkedIn is very important.
Then make sure you're on LinkedIn, because a lot of us will check. Yeah.
And LinkedIn, please make sure you got a nice picture.
Yeah.
Don't have a blank.
My youngest son, he just graduated. So he worked for 1.5 years. And the school that he worked for closed. 29 May will be the last day. Because the whole premise will be torn down. So when they found out in February this year, so he applied. So a lot of the kids that they look after, he's in a private school, moved to another school nearby. So they say, so I said, why don't you just write to that school and see? He said, okay. So he wrote in. And guess what? When he wrote in on Thursday. Monday, they call him for interview. Tuesday, they already say, I will offer. You know why? Because 5 of the kids that went there told the principal and the center owner that Teacher Ted very good. I like Teacher Ted. So he's got 5 network there that vouch for him. That makes the door. So he just got the job like that. Yeah. That's the best, So networking, don't underestimate. But don't go and network and then give yourself a bad name. That one is very detrimental.
Any last words? Any last questions? Oh, one question over there.
Yeah. One question. Yeah. As a technical person, how can we move into management role without losing touch on our technical skills?
I tell you, that was my biggest headache and my biggest fear when I got promoted to management job. Because suddenly you feel like you have lost control. But you see, you can keep yourself current, but you cannot neglect the fact that as a manager, you must delegate, you must empower, you must allow your team to deliver to you. Otherwise, you are not a good manager.
Yang Pai, my last code was in COBOL.
Because your focus is not
Yeah.
on delivering the project, or your focus on allowing your team to deliver successfully. Your focus then becomes one of stakeholder management.
And not
Yeah.
delivering on one project, but projects, that has a higher objective of making the whole entire business work. So therefore, for me, hanging on to COBOL, although they told me that COBOL programming now is a lot of money if I know how to do, right? But to me, it's
I still
beyond.
know.
You guys still stay very up to speed on like the cutting edge things.
You
Like,
don't have a choice. Okay, my opinion is this. For you to be a very good manager, you have also to be technically sound. You don't need to be the best, but you must understand what your team is doing for you to be able to effectively direct and for your team honestly to respect you.
So the question was placed to me that, what were the issues if I use AI to code? With COBOL programming, what can I answer, right? But because fundamentally coding is as such, and I can understand after you code, you need a unit test, you need to maintain, right? Because that's our job, right? I would be able to extrapolate and say that, how do we actually have AI coding and still make the code maintainable, right? So those are the concepts that you need to manage, right? Then on top of that, you got to put in the models and your experience and your exposure into managing risk of making a decision on whether you allow the AI to code or not to code. Whether it comes up with C, C++, you really don't care already, right? Because it's beyond the need for you to know. It's your guy at the bottom that says, can you verify for me what is accuracy? You know what I mean? So you need to understand the management side of it and the risk side of it and the governance side of it, more important. So I don't say that, we are completely out of our technical skills, but it's at a different level that you need to manage your different skills, technical skills.
You see, I like to tell a story. There's really nothing wrong, and you don't need to be shy to tell your team that technically you are better than me. Because there's something called knowledge power, there's something called position power. Knowledge power, once you hit management level, the higher you go, the worse your knowledge power is. But then you're blessed to be in position power to make direction, to make decision. So then how do you then recognize those people with knowledge power who are the younger people, the junior people? So how do you then communicate, connect with them to let them understand that, hey, I know you are the guys who know best the knowledge. You are the most up to date. Work with me, I will work with you to deliver this and you will look good.
When I was working with managers, single line managers, say the mobile team manager, moving up to a cross engineering manager, it was not so much, can I stay up to date with mobile code? How can I now learn what my backend engineers need to do, my data engineers need to do, my DevOps, my DevSecOps engineers need to. Now I need to stay on top of all of these different broad skill areas. So I may not be able to spend the time to sort of actually code, but it's talking to people, reading. I cheat. I make the leads of each different department give regular brown bags to sort of explain and show and tell. What has changed, what is changing, what do we need to think about moving forward.
Look, that's where the soft skill come in. If your people like you, if people can work with you, they respect you, they'll be very happy to explain to you what they're doing. And then you'll learn, and then you'll be in a much better position to work with them to set the correct direction. Because in all things, when you hit management level, there's no absolute clarity. You always have to take the risk and make decision in times of uncertainty. So they can explain all you want, but that's the technical solution. Whether this technical solution is what the business want, is what the organization need, is what your customer want, that's the risk you take. And if you are able to connect, communicate, and have people's skill to let your people see that they will work with you to be successful together. And never, never, never forget to recognize and reward your team. When there's a success, it's always a team, it's never you. Then you find your team will go with you. Your last soldier is how good your army is. If your last soldier is very far behind, your army is 1 mile apart from the first to the last guy. When the enemy comes, you will sure die. But if you're able to bring your team together, close together, enemy come, we can fight together. So you need to bring your team with you,
So you'll be getting a lot more uncomfortable because like what Pauline say is absolutely right. As you reach your management level and beyond,
You
right?
know a lot of things.
There is not, it's not like a code, you run, you work, or you don't work, right? And I think that's where I help you sell a koyo, right? Where, if you have causes that gives you the framework to understand and manage your risks, right? And that's how you actually progress. Because the framework teach you, what are things that you need to consider, right? While making a decision on things that have no right answer. Because coding technically very, very easy, right? It's either on or off, right or wrong, 1 or 0, unless you're using quantum. But besides that, right, the frameworks actually will help you dissect the problem, right, and minimize the risk, and provide some governance on decisions you're making. And then what Pauline added on is the important bit on making sure you take care and, be able to go down and see when you execute your policies, right, are the execution right or wrong?
No, framework and governance very key. I can tell you it's very difficult to let go. Very difficult. Initially, it's really, really very difficult. But you just have to remember that there are many ways to get from Toa Payoh to Clementi. There are many, many roads. So all because you are very familiar on how to drive there, doesn't mean that your team must do it your way, you know. So long as they can get to Clementi, whichever route they take, so long as it complies with framework and governance, let them do it. Because if you insist they must take your route, they may get lost because it's not familiar to them. So as a manager, your job is to guide them and ensure that they get to destination the way that they're most comfortable with, and not your way, no.
And still within the governance.
Yes, within the governance. That's why you must have framework and governance. Obviously, illegal, funny things cannot lah. But if you insist that, so manager doesn't mean that I tell you you move from A to B to C then C go to F then go to Z then that's not management. No. Then when the people get lost because they don't know what to do. The minute there's one point that they miss, they're lost. But if I'm able to tell you, you move from A here, Toa Payoh, go to Clementi, and I'm able to map the route that I'm most familiar with, they learn. You also get a bit easier life. You don't need to sit down there and sweat until they get there. And when they get lost, they will know how to pivot back because that's what they're familiar with. And if they get lost, they really cannot pivot back. That's your job then to help them. Very different. I tell you, it's not easy because you see the fellow, suddenly they take a route that you're not familiar with. Then you panic. Then you start to jump in. That's called micromanagement or being counter. Then people don't like you. Your job also very difficult.
Just in the start of your leadership journey.
Take more course in ISS. Kidding. I think I have been fairly lucky in the sense that when I started my career, the career wasn't going at the speed of light, right? And we had managers that actually took care of us, right? They provided us with some mentorship, right? And built the journey for us to go. I think, not looking back, I think I'm very lucky, like I said. I think if I were to do it again, I would want to provide more people providing mentorship to the next generation, right? So that we can actually build the industry to a stronger industry going forward. I mean, I would look at that. And I think, joking aside, courses like the ones that ISS have, like, prepare us somewhat in that direction, right? Because nowadays, I think getting mentorship from the company is a lot more difficult than where it was, right? Today, we are going at breakneck speed. So if you're not for the job, the company will just hire another person for the job, So I think, looking back, if we could actually have a lot more mentorship for the next generation, right? More causes that people can look up to, right? I think that'll be an easier path for all of us. We are growing up, we are more prepared.
I'm not so lucky lah. I really learned the hard way. So, I mean, one of the things that I struggled with was what he said. No, I couldn't let go. So then what I did was, but I understood that I need to empower. So I worked them hard. And I think, honestly, if I look back, I don't need to work so hard. I could have a much better life. And because I work very hard, my expectation of people also very high. So much so that I was once upon a time called a slave driver. So, and along the way, I learned that it's not the right thing to do, but it's a tough, humbling journey. So I think courses like that help you to see how to balance and how to learn from people who have stepped into pits and how to get up. When you need to let go, you let go. Honestly, if I have let go and I don't need to work so hard, I think nothing would have broken, Seriously, nothing would have broken. And I think I would have made a lot more friends. So along the way, sometimes you make enemies unnecessarily because Well, you push them, you push very hard. And then I was also not only work very hard, I was also a perfectionist. Must be like that, why like that? So then you're not happy, I look at it, I'm not happy, I do it again myself. Don't do that. Because you then the person gets totally insulted. And no win lah. Then your project also get very difficult. Then I tell you, along the way, you meet the person again. This person may be damn successful, become your customer. No? Wow, then cham no. Then you sweat. No? So learn.
Follow-up question about like expectation, your expectation is high. So if you are now hiring people, what are the 3 qualities that you are looking at them?
Okay, I interview a lot of people. Technical foundation given, you must have. You must have. Okay, then when I talk to you, very often I look for soft skill. Like I don't like arrogance. So if you come in, you talk like you know everything. This type of people, no matter how good you are, I don't hire. Okay. So for example, I think you often get the question: what are your strengths and your weaknesses? So your answer is key. I've got people who tell me I've got no weaknesses. I've overcome them. This type I will never hire. There are also people who tell you, oh, these are my strengths. Maybe we give my strength. Then when talk about the weakness, it doesn't, these are my weakness, but this is how I've overcome it. Come on, acknowledge your weakness. It's perfectly fine because it shows I'm not trying to find fault with you. When I ask you questions like that, I'm trying to understand you as a person. When you come into work, how will you work as a team? How will you work as a leader? And whether you'll fit the team, because you don't want somebody to come in and every day behave like, all, cannot get along with everybody. Because today's world, collaboration and teamwork is very important. And of course, I need somebody who can communicate. Your clarity of thought, the way you answer question. And one tip for you is when somebody asks you something, whether you understand or not, never mind. Try to, once in a while, paraphrase the question. Oh, is this what you're looking for? Blah, blah. To give me the idea that you have heard me and you're listening. Because we want people to be able to listen, so you just have to learn how to paraphrase. Don't paraphrase everything once in a while, so that it appears to me that you're listening, you understand. Yeah. So these are the things that is important, because technical, I look and then I ask you, and please always go in prepared with real examples of what you have done well, what you have not done well. If you say you're very good at certain things, so what is a project that show that you're very good at it, and then you're able to share it. Live, real examples. Now, those will be where you ace your interviews.
2 or 3 things that I look out for. One is resilience, right? So, like if let's say, even in investment, right? If the guy has failed before, never mind. I see how he pick up himself and move on. That's number 1. Number 2, I want to know if the person is a problem solver, right? It solves problem, know how to logically break the problem up and solve a problem. And I think the most difficult one is actually growth mindset, right? That means you're not looking at only your own growth, but whoever you're working for, what is their growth as well? What is the growth mindset, right? So I think those are 3 things that I would look out for. And my view is that if you want to interview, if you could weave these skills into your presentation, it might help you along.
And sometimes I deliberately interrupt the candidate. When you get interrupted, stop, listen, and smile. Because I'm testing whether or not you are listening and whether you have the resilience. If, let's say, your customer tell you off. Some people show me black face. Not happy, I get interrupted. Because sometimes I see you smile, I interrupt you second, I just want to test you, So you must... Because today there are so many candidates, right? You want to test and interview, especially if I want to hire somebody who need to go and handle tough senior stakeholders. then I need to know whether this guy is able to survive the environment and not bring in kill and quarrel my stakeholder to become my problem. No. So sometimes interviewers are deliberately a little bit nasty just to test you, you know. So be mindful lah. Don't go in and this fella's so nasty. I don't work for him or for her. Wow, then you may just. But of course, if the person is known to be nasty, then you decide whether you want to work for him or her lah. I mean, that's a different decision altogether. But sometimes it's deliberate, no.
All right. Well, on that note, thank you very much for sharing not just your advice and experience on management skills, but kind of career and life skills. And thank you all for taking the time this afternoon to come and listen to us here. And I hope to see you again